Hi, I'm Mel,
And I'm Janelle.
and this is the Murder Mamas.
The Murder Mamas.
Welcome.
Welcome.
How are you?
Good, how are you?
Good.
I don't know what happened to my voice there.
Yeah.
Good, how are you? Another week.
Another week.
It's not Thursday here today, though.
No, it's
Sunday.
Sunday, and it's during the day.
Daytime and Sunday. Very strange for us.
Yeah, it's weird.
Feels weird.
Yeah.
Hopefully we're not too weird for this one. Just like giggly and off topic.
I don't know why we would be.
Because it's Sunday.
Yeah.
It's not Thursday.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be Thursday.
Right.
So do you just want to jump right into it?
Sure.
All right. So today I'm going to tell you about the Moors murders. I'm not sure if you're familiar, but they were carried out by Ian Brady
Okay.
and Myra Hindley.
Okay, yes. Now I know what you're talking about.
Brady and Hindley were responsible for the murder of 5 children / teens ages 10 through 17 in the 1960s. They buried the bodies on Saddleworth Moor, which is about 15 miles outside of Manchester, England. And for anyone wondering, a moor is just like a huge open space. I don't know how to it's like.
Okay, I didn't know that.
It's like yeah, I'll try and pull up a picture. So it's just like a huge green area.
Okay.
Right. Like a big park almost.
Yeah.
With some hills and stuff.
Yeah. I didn't know what it meant.
So first I'm going to talk about their upbringings, how they met, and then each victim and circumstances of murders, and then their capture and conviction.
Okay.
Probably going to be 2 parts.
Okay.
I think I'm only going to get through the first 3 murders today. We'll see.
Okay.
Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. Myra Hindley was born on July 23rd.
That's my birthday.
I know. I was like, oh.
Yeah.
1942 in the Gorton neighborhood in Manchester, England. The area she lived in was a working class neighborhood, but was a very close-knit community. She was the oldest child of Nellie and Bob Hindley. Her childhood is regarded as average or normal for the time.
Yeah.
So the neighborhood was super poor.
Yeah.
They didn't really have indoor plumbing.
Ugh.
And that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
But no one had money. No one had that. But then other accounts say that her father was an alcoholic and really abusive.
Okay.
So I don't know where it really lies, but that's sort of the spectrum there.
Okay.
At the age of 5, when Myra was sent to live with her grandmother just 1 street over. So she went between both houses and still saw her parents all the time.
Okay.
And this was because of the birth of her younger sister Maureen. So their house was broken, I guess, and only had 1 room, and Myra was sleeping in the same room as her parents, and when the baby came, they were like, we can't have 2 kids.
Yeah.
So we'll just get rid of the oldest one.
That's weird, but okay.
It's strange.
Yeah. At least she was with her grandma.
Yeah.
I mean, she didn't go into an orphanage.
And it was a different time, right?
Yeah.
Where it takes a village.
Yeah, it does.
It was more of a thing, I think.
Yeah.
Right. This is right after the Second World War.
Yeah.
So
for sure.
So she, as she grew up, she appeared to have a good relationship with her sister and her parents. So it wasn't, a bad thing necessarily for her. At the age of 8, she was bullied and scratched on the cheeks by a boy at school. She went to her dad crying, and he said he would leather her if she did not retaliate. So in response to that, she went back and beat up the kid.
Yep. As one does.
Normal stuff, right? Yeah. So this can be seen as planting the seed of violence being used to solve problems, which would last her entire life.
Yeah.
Growing up, Myra had a best friend who she considered to be a lifelong friend. His name was Michael Higgins, and particularly was taken with the fact that they had the same initials. So they were super, super close.
Okay.
They spent a ton of time together, and one day Michael asked Myra to go swimming with him, but she couldn't go, and he ended up drowning that day.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so she was completely devastated by this death. She is said to have completely changed after his death.
Yeah.
She converted to Catholicism, which was his religion, in the wake of his death, and she spent a ton of time visiting, like, with his parents and family. But she would continue to withdraw from everyone around her following his death. She blamed herself and everyone in the community that was, like, at the swimming hole for his death.
Right.
Excuse you. She was still living with her grandma, so she lives with her grandma, like, the whole time.
Yeah.
She goes to school some more, and then, like, her attendance and school performance were never great, but she's described as being, like, intelligent.
Okay.
Not exceedingly so, but, like, normal.
Yeah.
She, later in life, though, like, after the murders, she's described by most people as being extremely manipulative, which we'll get to.
Yeah.
In part 2, probably.
Okay.
She leaves school permanently at 17 years old and got her first job as a junior clerk at a local engineering firm. She would run errands and, like, type notes. And at this job, she was well liked enough because when she lost her first week of pay, the other women in the office created, like, a collection plate in order to help her out.
Wow.
So, like, it wasn't like she was an outcast or anything.
Right.
You know, people...
She lost her pay.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, was getting on a bus or something and, like, left her paycheck there.
Oh.
But they, like, went and helped her.
Yeah, that's nice.
Like, they donated their money to help her.
That's
so
nice.
Yeah, she was engaged briefly during this time, but called off the engagement when she felt that this man wouldn't be able to provide her a good enough life. A psychologist in, like, a documentary I watched about this was that it wasn't about having a good enough life. It was that she wanted something, like, tumultuous.
Yeah.
And she wouldn't have been happy with, like, an average, happy, like, stable two kids.
Yeah.
Married. Like, that would have never been enough for her.
Right.
And that's just kind of who she was as a person.
Yeah.
She is said to... She would get a job at another engineering firm, but was let go a few months later for, like, absenteeism, so not showing up to work. And then she's practicing judo at this time, but is said to have had trouble keeping a partner because she would not let go of, like, the chokeholds. Which was from Wikipedia, so I don't know how true that is, but that's what is rumored.
Yeah.
So, just, like, a few little seeds of, like, violence in there.
A little red flag right there.
Red flag. And so now we'll talk about Ian. Ian had a much poorer upbringing than Myra. Ian was born to an unmarried, like, tea waitress. I don't know what that is.
Okay.
In Glasgow, Scotland on January 2nd, 1938. He never knew his father and was born as a result of an affair. His mother was unable to provide proper care for him and would end up fostering him at the age of 2 to a local family that already had 4 kids. This family would do their best to provide Ian with a good upbringing in life, but, like, he's just who he is.
Yeah.
His biological mother would continue to visit him during his childhood, at first kind of, like, a lot and regularly, and then as time went on, less and less, before she finally gets married and moves away.
That's sad.
I mean, it is, but I feel like it's kind of commendable to be like, I can't provide you with a life. Like,
no, it's true.
Let me give you to someone who can give you more.
Right.
And I love you enough to, like, show up.
Yeah.
You know, but she ends up moving, which I'll talk about in a minute.
Okay.
At age 9, Ian was accepted to a school for above average... neither of us can talk today, man. Above average students. There, he would begin to get involved in crimes at a very young age, 9.
Yeah.
He was brought before the court twice for breaking and entering. His third appearance in front of the court was at 16 years old and was the result of him threatening his girlfriend with a knife.
Yeah.
So
It's escalating.
Yeah. Ian's very smart. So, after that third time, he was placed on probation with the condition that he lived with his mother. She had moved to Manchester.
Okay.
and Ian moved to Manchester and worked as a fruit porter in a market.
Right.
At 17, Ian was caught stealing from the market and was sentenced to 2 years in a borstal, which is like juvie.
Oh, okay.
In the States. When he got out, he began working as a laborer and absolutely hated that job.
Yeah.
So he taught himself bookkeeping and used that to get a job where he would eventually meet Miss Myra Hindley.
Okay.
In January of 1959, Ian Brady began working a clerical job at Millwards in Gordon. He is known as having a bad temper, but was punctual and quiet.
You get what you can get.
And, like, how bad is bad, right? Is it someone who, like, gets frustrated and they're like, oh, fuck this? Because, like, or, like, is it someone who's, like, threatening people?
Right. Yeah.
So, like, what's the spectrum there on bad?
Yeah.
Ian had some strange taste and enjoyed reading books like Mein Kampf and teaching himself German. So he's just kind of like a weird dude.
A little bit.
In January of 1961, Myra Hindley would begin working at Millwards as a typist. She was almost immediately infatuated with Ian Brady.
Oh.
Brady was not at all interested in Myra and would ignore her completely.
Oh.
I don't know if you have seen a picture of her, but
I have.
Yeah. She would make multiple diary entries about Ian and her infatuation with him. She would mention... I'm getting good. She would mention how attractive and well-dressed he was. She would say things like, quote-unquote, Ian looked at me today, Ian spoke to me today, or Ian was in a bad mood today. Like, very childish.
Yeah.
Like, middle school.
Yeah.
Like...
Okay.
Yeah.
Infatuation.
Very infatuated. Myra... And during this time, she's continuing... She's continuing to date other men, but was just completely infatuated with Ian. So she's, like, going on dates, but doesn't care about any of them.
Yeah.
She's just, like, in love with him.
Right.
She finally speaks to him in July of that year. So for 6 months.
Wow.
She doesn't, like, talk to him. Yeah.
Okay.
And I guess they, like, that year in December, they, like, danced together at a company Christmas party and then went on a date soon after that.
Oh.
You say, oh, but it's not a cute love story.
Yeah.
She was, like, just would talk about how handsome he was and, like, he had a motorcycle and, like, how cool he was. Yeah. Have you seen a picture of him?
Yeah.
I'm like,
yeah.
I don't really see it. But, okay. So on this trip for the movies for their first date, they watched the movie Judgment at Nuremberg, which...
Okay. Doesn't ring a bell.
I don't know what that is, and I should have Googled it, but I didn't, so super sorry.
Yeah.
I think it has to do with, like, World War II and Nazis.
Yeah.
That's what I'm thinking. They began dating and would follow a common pattern on their dates. They would watch a movie, then drink German wine at Hindley's house. So, like, that's what they would do. They would go to the movies. Some sources said it was X-rated movies.
Ooh.
Some didn't. But that's it.
That's what they did.
Yeah. Ian had an obsession with Nazis and had sadomasochistic sexual fantasies.
Oh, good.
In the beginning of their relationship, Ian gave Myra some Nazi-centric reading materials.
Okay.
Just, like, various things.
About As one does, yep.
Yeah. They would spend their lunch breaks reading aloud to each other about the horrible things Nazis did.
Okay.
How weird. Myra began to change her appearance to fit the Aryan ideal, so she would bleach her hair like peroxide blonde, wear boots, bright red lipstick. She was very impressed with Brady reading Mein Kampf to her in German.
Okay.
I'm just imagining, like, working with these people and then, like, seeing them just seclude on their lunch break and read to each other about Nazis.
Yeah, it's a little weird.
Like, red flags.
Yep.
All over.
All over.
They would discuss and, like, plan these perfect robberies that would make them rich. So they would just, like, fantasize about, like, weird stuff.
Yeah.
Myra would take part in Ian's sexual fantasies. So, like, she would let him, like, dominate her sexually.
Okay.
She just completely changes who she is.
Yeah.
To be with
She's
him.
around him, yeah.
Yeah. It reminds me of How I Met Your... Not completely, but, like, How I Met Your Mother.
Yeah.
When they're talking to Robin about how she, like, changes for every man she's with. I don't know if you're familiar with that show.
I am.
But, like, she changes her personality for every man that she dates.
Right.
It's, like...
Yeah.
Seems like the same thing.
Yeah.
Like, he told her that there was no God, so she stopped going to church. And she was, like, extremely religious.
Wow.
Before that.
Huh.
And just gave up everything she believed in.
Wow.
After over a year of dating, Ian would test her willingness to be his accomplice in crimes. He began to plan a bank robbery, in quotes.
Yeah.
And told her that she would be the getaway driver. She didn't have a license.
Okay.
So she began taking driving lessons and even joined, like, a local rifle club to, like, get guns.
Yeah.
She failed her driver's test 3 times, but finally got it.
That's frightening. What the fuck?
This robbery never happened and was never going to happen, but it showed Ian just how willing she was to commit crimes with him.
Yeah.
So it's like seeing how far she'll go.
Yeah. Pretty far.
Yeah, well, and it goes further.
Yeah.
So Ian is actually interested in murder, which they commit their first one.
Oh, good.
On July 12th, which is Beau's birthday, 1963, Ian and Myra drove through the neighborhood. Which, like, why would you go through your own neighborhood?
Oh, yeah. No.
Where you grew up and it's close-knit and everyone knows everyone.
Yeah, no. It's the dumbest thing ever.
Why would you do that?
Yeah. Well, this was in the, what, 50s?
60s.
60s?
But why would you do that?
Yeah, I don't know.
I just, like, whoa.
They're dumb.
Myra was in a borrowed van and Ian followed on a motorcycle. He would be behind her and flash the lights of his motorcycle when he found a victim he liked.
Yeah, it's gross.
So gross. The first time Ian flashed his lights, Myra did not stop because the victim would have been an 8-year-old neighbor of her mother. And she's like, no, like, that's too close. Like, so she was at least a little smart about it.
A little bit.
The next time he flashed the lights, they would get their first victim, 16-year-old Pauline Reed. Myra knew Pauline because she went to the same school as Myra's little sister. Which, like, why would you do that?
Yeah.
But also made Pauline feel comfortable. Yeah. Right? Like, this is Maureen's big sister. What do I have to worry about?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I'm safe.
So on this night, Pauline was walking alone to a dance at the British Railway Social Club, where she was supposed to meet her friends for, like, a dance.
Yeah.
Which I guess was a thing in the 60s.
It was.
She was walking alone because one of her friends who lived close to her was unable to attend at the last minute. So at first, Pauline's mom wasn't going to let her go because she had to walk, like, a kilometer, which is like 3 miles.
Right.
Alone.
Oh, jeez, yeah.
And her mom was like, no, like, I don't know if I'm comfortable with that.
Yeah.
So maybe don't go. But Pauline was so excited to, like, meet her friends and go to this dance that her mom was like, okay, like, I trust you, and allowed her to make that walk.
Ugh, that's so sad.
Yeah. Pauline was wearing a pink twist dress and new white heels that she had just purchased earlier that day for the dance. Like, can you just imagine, like, the 16-year-old excitement?
Yeah. Aww.
Before walking out the door for the dance, Pauline's mother gave her her favorite necklace to wear for the night. I know. And, like, in one of the documentaries I watched, her mom is interviewed because, like, the parents are still alive.
Yeah.
Her mom's interviewed and she's like, I put it around Pauline's neck and she gave me a kiss on the cheek and was like, but Mom, this is your favorite.
Yeah, that's really sad.
Oh, it's so sad. But it does help identify her body later, too.
Yeah.
So, sadly, Pauline never made it to the dance, and her whereabouts were not revealed for over 2 decades.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it took a long time for her. which we'll get in depth
a
little later. When Ian flashed the lights, Myra called to Pauline and asked her for some help finding an expensive gloves that she claimed to have lost on the Saddleworth moor. I'm like, what a weird ruse to get someone into the car. Like, I lost my glove this place 30 minutes away. Can you help me?
Yeah, that's totally random.
It's so strange. But, like, it works because she knew the girl.
Right.
And it's like...
Yeah.
What is...
That's weird.
Yeah, I'm like, anything but a glove? I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah.
It just seems really, really strange to me. Pauline agreed to help her in exchange for some records. So she's also, like, incentivizing her helping.
Right.
So this girl trusts her because it's someone she knows, older sister.
Yeah.
Thinks she's going to be helping her and then getting a ride to the dance so she doesn't have to walk.
Right.
And then she's going to get some records too. So she's like, okay, this is like a win-win.
Yeah.
No one's going to hurt me. And I'll be good.
Of course.
I get a ride to the dance and I get records. And she gets none of that. Myra drove out to the moor while Ian followed on his motorcycle. Once at the moor, Ian struck Pauline in the head with a shovel. He then raped her and slit her throat. Ian and Myra have different versions of events, and in particular Myra's involvement in the murder. Myra says that she was not involved except for luring Pauline to the moor. Ian says that Myra was a willing participant in the murder and also sexually assaulted and beat Pauline. They then buried her body in a very shallow grave and went home to Myra's grandma's, where they were both living at this time. Following Pauline's disappearance, Myra would ask Pauline's mother, Joan, how the search was going and express her condolences for the disappearance.
God, how gross.
So fucked up, right?
Yeah,
like,
that is fucked up.
Oh, what a fucking shit stain.
Yeah. No kidding.
Their next victim would be 12-year-old John Kilbride. On November 23rd, 1963, Myra and Ian encountered John at a local market where he was working for some pocket change. They offered him a ride home from the market, saying that his parents would worry about him being out so late. But it's like early evening.
Yeah. And
it's sad because it's like the kids just want to like, I don't know.
You just trust them.
You just trust them.
Yeah.
And like nothing, I guess everyone in the documentaries were like, nothing bad ever happened. Like this was unheard of at this time in this area. They also offered him a bottle of sherry in exchange for the ride home. Once in the car, Ian said that they would have to... I accidentally put a typo here, and it says that Siri. That they would have to stop at their home to get the sherry. They also asked John if he would help Myra find an expensive glove that she had lost on Saddleworth Moor. So they're doing the same thing, but like they're... In this case, it's not how they get him in the car, but it's how they're excusing driving out to the moor, because that's where they're going to commit the murder.
Right.
He agreed to help them. Once at the moor, Ian left the vehicle with John. So Myra, both of them say, like, she wasn't there for the actual murder of him. Ian sexually assaulted John and then slit his throat. John was also strangled with a shoelace or a string. He was buried in a shallow grave close to the road. He was about 10 miles from the market that Myra had lured him into the car at. And so this one, they find, like, the police later on, they locate the body because there's, as they're going through all these Polaroids. No, as they're going through a bunch of photographs of like Myra and Ian that they, once they're caught, they find photos of Myra like on, and their dog Puppet on top of John Kilbride's grave on the moors. So they would go back to the moors and like revisit the graves of the people that they killed.
Oh wow.
And like sit there and have picnics and
that's
like
gross.
Have sex and stuff on top of them. Like really
God.
Yeah. Not great stuff. No. So that's how they end up finding his his burial site.
Okay.
And the police, like, in this one documentary I watched, they just went out there with the photo and were, like, matching it to different sceneries to, like, match it up and find him.
Yeah.
Wow. And in June 1964, they would find their next victim, and that's 12-year-old Keith Bennett. Keith was on his way to his grandmother's house when Myra approached him asking for some help unloading boxes into her vehicle. And it's like, they want to help. It's so sad.
Yeah.
Also teaches me to tell my kids, like, no grown-up will ever ask you for help.
No.
Like, if a grown-up is asking you for help, run away.
Yeah.
Like,
grown-ups don't need children's help.
Yeah. Like,
ever.
You don't need a child's help.
No, ever.
They'll never need your help.
No.
Like, mommy might need your help, but that's different.
Yeah.
Like, no random strangers gonna be like, can you help me find my dog?
Yeah.
Can you help me find a person? Can you help me load some boxes? Why would you ask a 12-year-old for help loading a box?
Yeah. No.
Like, it's just so fucked up and so sad.
Yeah.
And a good lesson.
Yeah.
To teach your kids. Myra said that she would give him a ride home after helping her. Keith agreed to help her, and Ian was in the back of the van. So Myra drove Keith out to Saddleworth Moor, where Ian took the boy deep into the moor. So again, she's not present for the murder of this one either.
Okay.
She's just luring.
Right.
According to her. Ian returned without Keith, but with a shovel previously hidden on the moor, where Myra was waiting after about 30 minutes. So he's gone with the kid for like 30 minutes. Mm-hmm. Ian told Myra that he sexually assaulted Keith and then strangled him with a string. Keith was buried in it. I can't say that word today.
Buried?
Buried. I keep saying buried.
Buried.
Buried in a grave. He is the only victim whose body has never been recovered from the moor.
What's that?
Yeah. No, don't stop it.
Okay.
We'll just add it. Okay. Or leave it in. I don't know. Put it in the front as a blooper. Okay. Their next victim would show a change in their MO and is especially disgusting.
Yeah.
On December 26, 1964, Myra and Ian went to a fun fair.
No.
Right? It's like a very interesting...
Fun fair. I want to go to a fun fair.
Not this fun.
Oh, okay.
Like a local fun fair for Boxing Day.
Oh, okay.
At this fair, they noticed 10-year-old Leslie Ann Downing by herself and made the decision that she would be their next victim. Leslie had attended the fun fair with some neighbors. Her older brother was supposed to take her, but he ended up getting the flu like that day and was not feeling good enough to go. So, I know. I read the saddest article where he's like, 50 years later, he's like, I still hate myself every day.
That's so sad.
For not going and feel so responsible for her.
Yeah.
For her death. So she ends up going with like a group of neighbors. It's like a mom and her kids, basically. She got separated from them and was standing alone near an area watching like something called waltzer cars, which I'm not exactly sure what those are. I think they're like maybe like bumper cars or something.
Maybe.
So she's just like standing there by herself watching them.
Right.
And Myra and Ian were holding shopping bags and they just like approached her. Myra walked up to Leslie and just sort of grabbed her hand, and then they just start walking towards the fair exit.
That's so scary.
That is so scary, right?
That's
like no fight.
That's the most frightening thing I've ever heard.
Yeah, like no fight, no nothing.
Yeah.
So the next part of this, a boy was unknowingly a witness to her abduction, but didn't think anything of it.
Right.
So he was standing by these little waltzer cars, just watching, and like made eye contact with Ian and saw Myra walk up, grab her hand, and then walk towards the exit. And he thought like,
it's mom and dad.
He thought that they just knew.
Yeah.
Maybe not mom and dad, but like he thought that they just like knew her because there was no real like words exchanged, nothing like come with us, just like let's go.
Oh,
and she just like went with them.
Yeah.
So he didn't, and he doesn't realize that until the police arrive at his school and start asking people, like, did you notice anything at this fair regarding this little girl going missing?
Oh, wow.
And he's like,
ding, ding.
Yes, I did.
Yeah.
But nothing really comes of it. Like, they don't catch Ian and Myra for quite some time later.
Right.
When Leslie did not return home at 5 p.m., her mom began to get worried. Leslie's mom and stepdad went to the fair to search for her but couldn't find her. And they get back and her brother confirms to them that she hadn't returned home. So then they were called the police and reported her missing. She was taken by Ian and Myra to their house where they lived with Myra's grandmother. Which, like, that's shit stain.
Yeah.
While at the house, Ian and Myra created a tape recording of her rape and torture.
Ugh.
It's awful.
Yeah.
Like, I read the transcript of it.
Oh, no.
And it's bad.
Yeah.
It's so sad. She's like, they took pictures of her in, like, various positions and states of dress and, like, gagged her. And the recording is disgusting and heartbreaking. It said that, like, hardened detectives and police force that listened to it were brought to tears. Like, it's sad.
That's sad.
Leslie's mother has to listen to the recording to confirm that it's her voice.
Seriously? Ugh.
Yeah. Isn't that, like...
That's the worst.
I feel like there has to be a better... I mean, I know it's the 60s, but, like...
Right.
It's awful. So throughout the entire recording, Leslie is calling Myra mommy. Okay. Or, like, mom. Like, she's, I don't know, like, trying to, like, tune into that maternal instinct that just does not exist in her because she's pure fucking evil.
Yeah.
And it's so heartbreaking. She's like, please no, stop, mom. And then also begging for her mom. Like, I just want my mommy. Please don't hurt me. I just want my mommy.
God.
The part I read, she also calls Ian dad. Like, she's trying to, like, make it seem like they're her parents. Like, trying to suss out any amount of humanity that she can from them. But there's just nothing. It's so sad. Myra says that she left the room to draw Leslie a bath, and when she returned, Ian had raped and strangled her.
Oh, lovely.
Which is convenient for her, right? Like, I wasn't there for any of that. But Myra's heard on the tape repeatedly telling Leslie to shut up and just do what they ask, like, over and over again. Like, the girl's begging and, like, through tears crying. And Myra's like, shut up. Just shut up. Shut up. Just shut up. Like,
Jesus.
Yeah. Ian claims that Myra killed Leslie. So it's like, after the fact, they're both like, no, just pointing fingers all over the place. Like the Spider-Man meme. Where everyone's just pointing at each other. They drive her body out to Saddleworth Moor the following day and bury her with her clothes at her ankles in a shallow grave. Yeah. Her body would not be recovered from the moor until October 10th, 1965. So she went missing December 26th. So it's almost a year later.
Yeah.
In the time between Leslie Ann Downing's murder and their next murder, Myra and Ian spent a lot of time with Maureen and her husband David Smith. So Maureen's her sister. Okay. And David Smith is her sister's husband.
Yeah.
Obviously. Maureen's family didn't like David Smith because he had like a record, but like a criminal record. Right. Not for like violent crimes, but like petty stuff. Much like Ian. Right? Yep. So Ian wanted to involve David in their crimes. Okay. And he began grooming David and like indoctrinating him with their strange views. Like, so a lot of like that like Nazi and like, that German stuff. Right. During this time, Ian had joked with him about burying children on the moors. Oh. So he's like trying to see how far, like, hey, let me joke about this and see if they laugh or if they get offended. Right. So this comes into play for their last murder. There's a victim that narrowly escaped being abducted by Myra and Ian just shortly before they got their last victim. David Wolf is his name, and he was 10 years old when he was moving coal with his wheelbarrow. I feel like...
Oh. Why is a 10-year-old moving coal with a wheelbarrow?
Like, I know it's the 60s, and I know it's England, and I know it's, like, a poor working class area, but, like, the other kids are working at, like, markets and, like, loading boxes, and, like, it's just, like, how are you all working?
Yeah.
So, he was doing it to earn some money. He had shared his tips with his mom and then went to, like, a little shop with his wheelbarrow to buy some candy before going home. And while he's at the shop, an elderly woman who was inside told him that someone was outside looking at his wheelbarrow. So David goes outside, and he found a man wearing a white shirt and with, like, a dark collar and dark hair looking at his wheelbarrow. This man was Ian Brady.
Yeah.
And he's impersonating a police officer. Ian asked David to get into their car so they could give him a ride to the police station and help him with their inquiries, whatever.
Okay.
Like that mean, I don't really know what that like means per se.
Yeah.
But David asked for proof of a warrant card and like sort of like steps back into the shop.
Yeah.
Like door, which causes the bell when you open to like jingle. So like caught some attention from the people inside.
Yeah.
And at the same time, Myra called from the car, "Come on, Ian, we've got to go." And Ian calmly just walks into the car and they leave.
Wow.
David says that he just stood there frightened for a while, and when he saw the newspaper after their murders were discovered, David realized just how close he was to becoming another one of their victims.
Wow. That's scary.
Yeah, he describes it in the article I read that it was like the end of his childhood.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Like, realizing.
Yeah.
You were like...
that much evil in the world exists.
And that much evil was this close to you.
Yeah. That's scary.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
So their fifth and final victim was 17-year-old Edward Evans. That on the night of October 6, 1965, Myra drove Ian to the Manchester Central Railway station. Once there, Ian went into the station to select a victim while Myra waited in the car. So that was kind of like the thing they would always do, right? Like, Ian's really calling all the shots in this.
Yeah.
It seems like. And I feel like towards the end here with this guy, like, she's just sort of there. Not so much, like, taking part in things anymore.
Okay.
Ian returns to the car with Edward Evans. He was an apprentice engineer from, like, some other town.
Yeah.
There's so many weird names of towns in this place. Brady introduced Myra as his sister and admitted that he had lured Edward back to their home with the promise of a sexual encounter.
Yeah.
So Anne's like definitely bisexual, but like, probably gay.
Yeah.
And at their home, they all began drinking wine to relax. At some point during this, Ian sends Myra to fetch David Smith. So he's like, go get David.
Okay.
The brother-in-law.
Right.
Ian had planned to have David present at a murder to rope him into their crime. So, like, you've already seen it. You can't turn against us.
Jeez. Yeah.
Yeah. Myra had concerns about involving David because, like, why would you bring another person into this that could
possibly
tell people?
Yeah.
But Ian did not care. Like, he didn't listen, didn't value her opinion. He's like, I don't give a shit. Yeah. Do what I say. When Myra returned to the home with David, she told him to wait in the car and wait for her signal, which would be a flashing light. When the light came, David knocked and was met by Ian. Ian asked him if he was there for miniature wine bottles. Then Ian went to go to the kitchen to get them. Smith says the following about what happened next. I waited about a minute or two. Then suddenly I heard a hell of a scream. It sounded like a woman, really high-pitched. Then the screams carried on, one after another, really loud. Then I heard Myra shout, "Dave, help him," very loud. When I ran in, I just stood inside the living room and I saw a young lad. He was lying with his head and shoulders on the couch and his legs were on the floor. He was facing upwards. Ian was standing over him, facing him, with his legs on either side of the young lad's legs. The lad was still screaming. Ian had a hatchet in his hand. He was holding it above his head, and he hit the lad on the left side of his head with the hatchet. I heard the blow. It was a terrible, hard blow. It sounded horrible. End quote. So,
Yeah, that's
all that to say, this is like completely different because normally they're like strangling, and not so like violent.
Yeah.
I mean, well, like raping.
Freaking
children is extremely violent, but not so like gruesome,
right?
For lack of a better term.
Right.
And this one's just like, I don't know why. Maybe to like show David, like to show off or something.
Right. Probably.
And then, so after all of that, Ian strangles Evans with an electrical cord. During the scuffle, Ian sprains his ankle, and the body was too heavy for David to move alone. So they're like, what do we do with this man's body in Myra's grandmother's house?
Right.
Like,
what idiots.
Oh my God. So they wrapped the body in plastic sheeting and placed it in the spare bedroom and then locked the door.
Oh,
that was
okay.
Like, we're just gonna...
Goodbye.
We're just gonna like wrap this up and, I don't know. So Myra she was present like for the murder, but she wasn't involved in the murders so much, but had normalized the violence and was incredibly nonchalant about the horrors and blood-filled scene that she was to clean up. So she's left to clean up the whole mess, like all the blood. And this is from David's account. He's like, she didn't do anything.
Yeah.
But like,
she didn't stop it.
She didn't stop anything either. She was like, well,
yeah, do what you want.
Here's another day. David went home at around 3 a.m. with the promise to return to Ian and Myra's home tomorrow. He was going to bring his baby stroller.
What?
To help transport the body to the car and take it out to bury it on the moor.
Okay.
I'm like, a stroller?
A stroller?
For a baby.
Yeah.
Babies weigh nothing.
Yeah.
I don't know how much Edward Evans weighs.
It's about...
But it's more than a baby.
More than 10 pounds.
More than a baby.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
yeah.
Even a 1-year-old weighs what? 20 pounds?
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah.
25?
Yeah.
You got a real chunk? Like 28? A grown adult man.
No.
Well, an almost grown adult man for sure weighs more than a baby.
Yeah.
So I'm like...
How's that going to help?
I don't know how much that would have helped.
No.
So... that was my, like... A baby stroller?
A baby stroller.
Maybe the baby strollers in 1965 had higher weight limits than they do now.
Yeah, maybe.
Like, probably made of pure metal.
Probably.
And lead and asbestos. So David goes home. He promises to bring back the stroller. When he arrived home, he asked his wife Maureen to make him a cup of tea, and then he vomited. He then tells her everything he had witnessed. So he keeps nothing.
Nothing.
Zero. He's like, I'm not roped into any of this shit. He tells her everything. They waited until like 6 o'clock in the morning until it was daylight because he was so afraid that Ian and Myra were going to like follow him and intercept him.
Yeah.
So they armed themselves with a bread knife and a screwdriver before they walked down to a payphone because remember, like, they don't have phones in their houses.
Yeah.
So they had to walk outside to the payphone, and they're like, if they're out there, we're going to fight to, like, call the police, which is, like, really commendable if you think about it. You know, they had spent a year trying to, like, groom him to be a part of these crimes with them.
Yeah.
And
didn't work.
Did not work at all. And probably the only reason that the murder stopped. Had they never...
Yeah.
Had Ian never wanted to bring David in...
Yeah.
Like, I'm not going to say they would have got away with it forever, but, like...
More.
They were definitely getting away with it.
Yeah.
So, he calls the police from the payphone, and then he waits in there until the police pick him up and take him down to the station for questioning. David insisted to the police that there were more victims than just Edward Evans. So he's like... I saw this one, but, like, he joked to me about these other ones. I know there's more. Like, this dude's fucked up. There's more.
Yeah.
The police began to investigate immediately, which is also great that they, like, don't fuck around or screw around or not believe him or any of that. They're like, okay. They devised a plan to do a sort of like an undercover operation.
Yeah.
One officer was dressed as a bread man and knocked on Ian and Myra's front door, which a bread man is like someone who used to deliver bread. Like a milkman.
Yeah.
Some people are so old.
Yeah.
As you.
Ah.
We don't remember
I didn't have a bread man.
Myra answered the door and said that they didn't have any bread. She's like, we're not expecting a bread delivery. And the police are like, I know, we're the police. We're coming in. We just need you to open the door. So Ian's like, whatever, let them in. And I feel like he's like sort of resigned to the fact that like,
This is it.
This is it. Like, we're done.
Yeah.
They found, so they start looking through the house, not like crazy investigating, but just like walking through.
Right.
And they find the locked bedroom, and Myra is like, oh, we don't have a key. Like, I don't have a key for that. It's my grandma's. I don't know. We'll have to go get a key. Like, making up this huge, convoluted story. And Ian's like, just unlock the door. And so, I'm not laughing at, like, the murder or anything, but it's just, like, the strangeness of the circumstances.
Yeah.
It's like, just
unlock it.
Just unlock it.
Be done.
So she does. Obviously, the police find the body, and they're like, okay. So he was telling the truth.
Yes.
And they take them down to the station. Ian gets arrested and held there, but Myra's allowed to leave after some questioning because the police don't think that she's involved initially.
Yeah.
But while that's all going on, the police have conducted a thorough search and investigation of the home. They found plans for a robbery written out by Ian with, like, initials on it. And the initials are super big, and they say PB. And then as they're going through, they find, like, a prayer book. So PB, prayer book.
Okay.
And in the prayer book, on, like, the, you know, like, the spine, like, the binding of the book, they find a luggage tag for, it's like a luggage ticket for left luggage at Manchester Station.
Okay.
So they're like, yeah. They're like, okay, let's go see what this luggage is.
Out.
Exactly. So they get there and they find, they retrieve the suitcase from the station and they found horrors inside it that would shake the entire country. The police discovered the photos and recording of Leslie Ann Downing. They also found sexually explicit photos of Myron and Ian separately and together. Photos of Myra and their dog Puppet on the moors, which is important because they would. Yeah. The police actually, so they tried to establish the age of the dog to see like how old the photo was.
Oh, okay.
And to do that, they used a veterinarian and like put the dog under anesthesia. And then it doesn't survive that. It like dies.
Oh.
Well, yeah, but like they killed a ton of people. So like,
Yeah, but the dog didn't do anything.
well,
Okay.
they could have just told them when the pictures were from,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So the dog dies, and then Myra's arrested at this point too,
Okay.
and she's like inconsolable in the jail, and she's calling all the police like senseless murderers, and like
Oh, okay.
exactly like they're not, I mean, it is a dog, and that's sad, but like you killed children. So
Yeah.
So they found that the photos that they had taken on the moors were gravesite locations for some victims.
Oh.
So Ian and Myra would go back and visit the graves and like relive the crimes
Yeah.
in like sick, fucked up ways.
Right.
Yeah. So the police take the pictures they find of like, it's probably like one of the most famous ones from this case. I'm sure you've seen it. It's like Myra holding their dog over this section of the moor.
Yeah.
And they use this photo and they're looking at like landmarks in the photo to find the body of John Kilbride. Okay. So they're conducting all these searches, like holding the pictures up. They're having photographers come from like different angles. Right. Like they're doing the most. Yeah. I'm like, wow, this is That's really good. Impressive police work for 1960s. They would plan their searches for like dawn and dusk to like stop how much media was able to like be present, because it's like also really sad. Yeah. And they would just, like, go through and they would stick the ground with, like, a long pole and, like, hit a body. Oh, God. And, like, unbury it. Yeah. Yeah. They, but during this search, they only find 2 bodies. So they find the body of John Kilbride and Leslie Ann Downey. Okay. Ian gets charged with 3 counts of murder, and Myra's charged with 2 counts of murder and 1 count of accessory to murder. They both received life in prison. So they go to trial, and they do the whole thing, like, it wasn't me, it was her, it wasn't me, it was her. But, like, it was both of us because we're giant shit stains. And Myra's actually the first woman in English history to be implicated in the sexual killing of children. Wow. So that's a record.
Great title for her.
That's a record I don't think anyone should ever aspire to hold. No. They stay in contact for the first few years of their prison sentences, and then they, like, grow apart. Yeah. And the reason they grow apart is because Ian, much like when the police showed up at the door to that day when they find Edward Evans, like, he accepted. Like, I did wrong. Yeah. I'm not necessarily sorry I did wrong, but, like, I'm not going to fight it. No. I'm going to settle into, like, jail life, and just this is what it is for me for the rest of my life. Right. And Myra does the exact opposite. Yeah. She's like, I'm not guilty. It was Ian. I didn't do anything, and I shouldn't be in jail. Yeah. And she never really, like, accepts jail. Yeah. And her responsibility in the murders until it's convenient for her. So she just, like, maintains her innocence, and she, like, cultivates this narrative where Ian's, like, a master manipulator who's abusing her, who would threaten to, like, kill her and would, like, sexually assault her and threaten to push her grandmother down the stairs if she didn't do what he wanted. Like, all kinds of stuff. Uh-huh. Just sort of, like, out of nowhere. Right. She's like, I'm the victim. Right. And people, there's, like, apologists, like Myra Hindley apologists who are like, she was never guilty. Oh, God. Yeah. It's like... Let's not go down that road. Yeah, like, no, she was. Yeah. Because even if she wasn't doing it with her hands, she did nothing to stop it. Yeah. Even if he was abusing her, right? Like, she could have told someone. Yeah. She had contact with the outside world. She had contact with her family. Yeah. Could have done something. Yep. But in 1970, so like 5 years after they get arrested, Myra breaks off all contact with Ian. And then in 1977, she began to petition for parole. Okay. Like, you've been in jail for 12 years and you think you deserve parole now? Yeah. No. The answer is no. You got life. Right. And you're going to serve life. Right. She actually, like, until the day she dies, she never gives up her hopes of getting parole. Mm. And Ian never applied for parole. Yeah. He's like, I just want to die. Like, I just want to die in jail. Right. Like, I'm done. At the end, actually, he ends up, like, starving himself and, like, not drinking water. Like, he just wants to be dead. Wow. It's like, I just don't want to do this anymore. Yeah. Which is, like, how convenient.
Yeah, how convenient for you. Yeah.
You get to make that choice. Yeah. The choice you took away from 5 people. Yeah. So nice. And then, so like I said earlier, she always maintains that she's innocent. But as she's applying for parole, people are saying, like, you're a manipulator. You've always been a manipulator. So then in 1986, she changes her entire tune. Okay. And says, like, she makes this long public confession to the 5 murders, but then doubles down about the whole Ian being like abusive, and that's why she did it. So really not saying she did anything, but just like Ian's the reason.
Yeah.
But the result of that confession is that, also want to add that Ian always denied that he was like abusive towards her.
Okay.
He's like, that
never happened.
That stuff never happened.
Yeah.
So it's like, do you believe like a legit psychopath or like this crazy manipulative evil bitch? Like,
which one?
Take your pick. What is that? 2, 1/2 dozen the other, something.
Yeah.
I don't know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like they're both a shit sandwich and
a shit thing.
Exactly. But as a result of the confession of Myra, she leads police to the body of Pauline Reed. So she goes out and they like take her out to the moors, and she finds her body. But Keith Bennett, his body is never recovered from the moors. And like his mom is like, I'll never rest. Her name's Winnie. It's like the cutest name.
Yeah.
And she's like, I'll never rest until, I'm sure she's dead now.
Yeah.
But like, I'll never rest until Keith is at peace and we're able to like lay him to peace. But they say like the way the moors are, like their soil, is that the soil like rotates or something. So even if Myra and Ian had gone back to the moor like so many years later, there's a chance that where it was on the surface wouldn't be where it is underneath.
Right.
And she seriously like she would go out on her own and search for him and just like put a stick in the ground all over the moors trying to find him, and like leave she would like leave a bunch of like flowers up there, just like never. And his brother's on there too on the video I watched, and they're both like, the moors are always the spookiest place. And she was like, I used to feel that way, but now I know my Keith's out here, and like I come here to be with him. Like it's just like so sad. And then for Pauline, the police found her, and like her shoes, the white shoes, were still in like pristine condition, like the day she had bought them.
Oh my gosh!
For whatever reason, like they were just preserved, and they found her mom's necklace.
Oh, that's really sad.
It's so sad. But so yeah, it's like even to this day they never found Keith Bennett's body, and
that's too bad.
Yeah. Myra spent her time in prison trying to appear like that she was remorseful and reformed, but again, like I just think she's a master manipulator. She found faith while she was there and like confirmed to Catholicism, like she had as a teen, and then she received like a college degree. So she did what most people do in prison, right? Like
what else can you do?
Exactly, like you find faith and then you know try and get a degree. I don't know why. What are you gonna do with the degree? You're gonna be here for life.
What else are you gonna do? At least you're doing something with your brain.
Yeah, I guess. Most people felt that she was just being manipulative and was implicating Ian to absolve herself from any wrongdoing, when she was really like a very willing participant in the crimes.
Yeah.
I'm totally in that camp.
Yeah.
I think that she was willing and wanted to do all of it.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And like maybe not towards the end.
Yeah.
You know, which is why David was they were trying to like, Ian was trying to get David to come in, or maybe he was done dealing with Myra. But like for sure in the beginning, I think Myra got off on seeing Ian get off in that way.
Yeah.
Just because she was so obsessed and infatuated with him.
Yeah.
Like we talked about.
Yeah.
That's my take.
Yeah, I agree.
From everything I watched. And I just feel like, I don't know. I would never let someone skate by doing like terrible things like that. Like if someone was like, I would be like David. Someone's like, hey, I want to murder someone. I'd be like, no, I'm going to go ahead and call the police right now. Like, your plan stops with me. Like we're done. We're done. So I find it hard to believe for her to be like, I was just an abused victim. Like,
no, she wasn't.
I don't think so. I think that you abused 5 young people.
Right.
That's what I think.
Yeah.
But the good news is that both of them die in prison. So Myra would die in prison on November 15th, 2002 at the age of 60 due to bronchial pneumonia. Apparently she was a heavy, heavy smoker.
Oh.
So good riddance.
Bye.
Burn in hell. And Ian would live out his time in prison at Park Lane Hospital. So he actually wasn't in jail. He was in like a center for the criminally insane.
Okay.
Because he was found to be a psychopath when they did like mental evaluations on him.
Yeah.
And then he sort of, it's not all written in here just because it's not super necessary, but he would sort of like appeal that and be like, I'm not a psychopath. I'm just like this other thing. And he wanted to go back to regular prison, but they never let him.
Yeah.
So he would die on May 15th, 2017, which is
wow.
Not that long
Not that long ago.
right?
Yeah.
As I was researching this, I was like, oh my God, like Blake was a year old and I was almost going to have Bo at that time.
Yeah.
That's fucking nuts to me. Of pulmonary disease. He was one of the longest people in prison for like crimes.
Good for him.
Yeah. And that's it. So, like I said, at the end of his life, he is like, I'm done. I don't want to do this anymore. And just sort of like starts starving himself and
whatever.
Yep. And that's them. That's the Morse murders.
Wow.
And I'm finally fucking done talking about them. Good riddance. Motherfuckers.
Alrighty.
Terrible, right?
Yeah, that's pretty bad.
Awful. Awful people.
Awful people.
The worst. Anyways, thanks for listening.
Yeah, thanks for listening.
Yeah, you can find us at
The Murder Mamas
on
Instagram
and
Twitter.
And that's it. And Gmail. You're all scared.
TheMurderMamas@gmail.com.
And Facebook.
The M Mamas.
Because
you can't say murder on Facebook.
Ding, ding, ding. And that's it. Thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening.
Bye.
Bye.